Hare Krishna. We'll move on to the next slide. We'll start the session by paying obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who is founder Acharya of ISKCON. And we'll seek blessings from our Guru Maharaj. So we are on our journey, the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So far, we have covered from verse number 1 to 9 of this third chapter, which is entitled as Karma Yoga. Today, we'll try to cover the next section, which is verse number 10 to 16, which is from Karma Kand to Karma Yoga, right? So we'll do a quick recap of what we have done so far. So the chapter started by Arjun's confusion. He was confused by Krishna's equivocal statements. So he asked whether I should fight or should I take renunciation, right? Krishna said, I have already told you about these two paths. But for you, for now, the renunciation will be premature. Because you cannot take renunciation whimsically, right? Renunciation has to be taken at a proper time. And that too, you want to take renunciation because you are finding your responsibilities and duties difficult, which is not the criteria of taking renunciation, right? And anyway, if you take renunciation, you cannot be inactive. Why? Because you are a Kshatriya. Psychophysically, your mindset is of a Kshatriya. If you go to the forest and you beg from door to door, and if someone doesn't give you alms, then you can take out your sword. You can kill that person. So for you, inaction, or for anyone, inaction is unnatural. So you have to be active, regardless of where you are, right? And then we can move on to the next slide, Nikita. So in 3.6, Krishna says that if you take renunciation while your mind is still attached to sense object, it will be like a mithyachar for you. You will be called as a pretender, right? So better for you, you engage in your prescribed duties, right? And then Arjuna starts thinking, if I perform my prescribed duties, will I not get bound in the reaction of the work? Krishna says, no, you will not be bound if you perform that prescribed duty for me. So dharma, that is prescribed duty, if done for Krishna or Vishnu, it becomes yajna, right? We discussed that last time. So Krishna is saying that not only that you should do your prescribed duty, but you should do it as a yajna, as an offering, as a sacrifice for me, right? For Vishnu. Yajnat karmano anya loko yam karma bandhana tadatham kam kaunteya mukta sangha samachara, right? So does anyone has any question on this section? Okay. So we'll move on to the next slide. So this is the topic of today's discussion. From Karma Kand to Karma Yoga. I think so we have discussed this last time, that what is yajna, right? Offering of prescribed duties, that is dharma, to Lord Vishnu becomes yajna, or sacrifice. And in the Vedas, it is mentioned, yajna vai Vishnu. In other words, same purpose is serve, whether one performs prescribed yajna or directly serve Lord Vishnu. Right? So that means if we are performing yajna in our current position, it is as good as serving Krishna or Vishnu directly. Right? That is the whole science behind this process that we have to understand. Right? For example, earlier, primarily we used to deal with hardcore currency, hard cash, right? And now, if today Prashad ji asks me, can you please give me 10,000 rupees? I can just transfer it. Someone who doesn't understand, you have not given me 10,000 rupees, I was asking. That we have transferred it in your bank account. Someone who doesn't understand this whole e-transaction will be difficult for him or her to understand. You know, like 10 years back, people used to say it is very risky to use debit card, credit card, and all these e-transactions and all. Right? Who were very skeptical about the process, who didn't know the process. So a person who doesn't understand the process may find it really weird. You know, how does that happen? They may question, right? For example, you know, we were in Vrindavan for 7 years. And people used to wonder, what am I doing in Vrindavan? I said, I'm working for a company. Hey, how can you work from Vrindavan for a company? So at that time, that working from home concept was not prevalent. Only by the mercy of Corona, now people understand what is working from home. Right? So until unless person experiences something, it is difficult for them to understand the process. It becomes difficult. Right? So when we try to follow these things and we see the difference, we experience what we are getting by performing yajna, you know, we realize that, you know, actually it works, right? So then, you know, like a person will start transacting maybe 500 rupees or so. Then if he sees his balance, you know, oh, I have got it. You know, he was not a. So gradually a person gets and develops faith. Similarly, in this spirituality, our faith also develops gradually, right? But what we have to do is to follow the process. It is not that, you know, if you want to light a fire, you cannot in parallel pour water, right? If you want to light a fire, you have to stop pouring water on the log of wood or anything, right? If you try to light fire and at the same time pour water, then you will not be able to light the fire. Similarly, if you want to follow spirituality, then you have to follow certain rules and regulations, right? So that is very important in our life, because the philosophy of performing prescribed duty is to actually purify our heart. The prescribed duties are meant to purify our heart, right? Because only a purified heart will be the right place to get the knowledge, the realized knowledge, right? So this is the hierarchy. First, you perform your prescribed duty, which will help to purify the heart, and then the knowledge will be awakened in our heart. Okay? So does anyone has any question on the concept of what yajna is? Okay, so let's move on. Okay. So Nikita, will you like to talk about this?
One question, Sumanji.
Yeah, please.
Earlier, I understood the concept of yagna where you sacrifice without any desire, without any result, right?
See, okay, we go back to the previous slide. Let me explain you. See, prescribed duty, right? Prescribed duty, performing of prescribed duty without desire or without attachment, right, is basically, it falls under the umbrella of what we call as the obligatory responsibilities mentioned in the Vedas, like prescribed duty. When we call, there is two things: fruitive activities and prescribed duties. Fruitive activities are done with a attachment to the result or desiring something out of it, right? While the prescribed duties should be done, without attachment. And if they are done without attachment for Krishna, then it becomes yajna.
Okay. So the earlier times what we used to hear about Yagni, where the Agni Yagna or Ashwamedh Yagna, are
Right.
those different concepts? Because there is a desire, right? There's a reason for which they do.
Right. So, see, now the yajna which we are talking is what? It is performed for Vishnu, right? For whose satisfaction?
Krishna.
Here also the desire is there. The desire is what? That whatever we are doing is for the satisfaction of Vishnu, right? Now, in the subsequent slides, we will see Krishna will speak that by these yajna, the demigods will also be satisfied, right? And Prabhupada, in his purports, sufficiently explains that if a yajna, there are type of fire sacrifices, right, which can also be independently performed for demigods by Karam-kandi people, right? So that is why the topic is Karam-kand to Karma Yoga. That how gradually we will advance our consciousness from Karam-kand to Karma Yoga. So what happens is, I think so, when we move little further into the next few verses, and then can you please remind me with the same question? Because I think so that with the flow, you will understand a bit of it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So you move on.
Okay, would somebody like to read this?
Yeah, I'll read. The beginning of creation, Saha Yajna Praja Sarasva Puro Vacha Prajapati Anena Prasavi Syadvyam Isavatva Istakamadhuk. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation."
Thank you. So we see here that when we say Saha Yagna, means along with the Yagya. Prajaha Shristva. Prajaha is the men and the demigod. Shristva is the creation, right? And the Prajapati here refers to the creation, the Lord of the creation, which is Lord Vishnu. So Lord Vishnu, in the beginning of the creation, he created all the creatures, which is the men and the demigod, and along with that also the sacrifices which are preferred. And then we say that he blessed them by saying, be happy with these sacrifices. Yeah. And these sacrifices, if they are performed the right way, you will not only achieve the liberation, but also you will live happily in the current material world where we are. Maybe we can understand this a better from our next slide. Can somebody tell me what is this? I think the title of the slide says that it's one universe, right? So this is the universe, which is, out of many universes we have, this is one of the universe. And, behind, and who has created this? Krishna, right? So behind anything we create, there is a reason, right? So for example, we build a house, and what's the purpose behind it? To get the shelter, right? And similarly, for example, we have these mobile phones without which we cannot live right now. So what is the purpose for that? Basically to communicate, right? So similarly, everything which is created, there's a purpose behind it. So this universe, which is created by Krishna, what is the purpose? So the purpose is that it is a platform where we are given a chance, to go back to Godhead, which is back to Krishna. So, and how will we know that what we need to perform? Just like we took the example of a mobile phone, we know the purpose, but how would we know that? How can we use that mobile phone? Anything, it comes along with a kind of user manual, right? So along with mobile phone, you'll have a user manual as how to use it. So similarly, Krishna has created the Vedas for us, yeah, to fulfill, to guide us, to provide us the guidance. And so why are we basically in this material world? Because the primary reason is that we are we we are forgetful, with regarding our connection with Krishna, regarding our relationship with Krishna, and also that we wanted to be, independent. So because we have forgotten that relationship with Krishna, these Vedas are basically, given to us to understand our eternal relationship with Krishna. So overall, the whole, setup, is programmed such a way, within the universe. There's a purpose behind it, and there's a way how we can achieve our purpose, which is through Vedas. So and it is all programmed for us, like us as conditioned souls, so that we get the way through going back to Krishna. So I think this is the slide. Here we see Yagya and Yagya Kund, right? So just we are still continuing on the Shlok 3.10, which is the first one, where Krishna sent men, created men, demigods, and also providers as the sacrifices. Yeah, for what? For us to be happy and to achieve liberation. So the performance of Yagya is why? What is the result of it? To achieve happiness and liberation. So like everything has a form and a principle behind it. For example, we can take yoga, right? What is the form of the yoga? The different kind of asanas, right? And what is the principle behind these yogas? Is to connect our soul to the super soul, right? To connect to the supreme. So similarly, in yagya, it has a form and a principle. Yeah, the form here is the fire, like we can say, and the principle is it's a sacrifice. Yeah, so so like we offer different kind of offerings, like ghee or grains into this yagya uh, as part of our prescribed duties. So some people have the mindset, especially um, the recent generations, we see that quite a lot of people have the mindset that it's waste of resources, or it's waste of energy, time, resources, everything. So I think it is like um, they are trying to say that we are putting the money in the bank, but we have the card, but the card has no value. That's their thought process. So, these yagyas, what we perform, we are actually performing them to make us to get purification of heart, right? For us to be purified, and in turn, we get a lot in return, as a good. As a credit or as a good activity, pious activity, right? So overall, Krishna is stressing here that do the yagyas, as your prescribed duties, and that you will attain not only liberation, which you'll tend to come back to me, but also happiness within where you are right now. And why? How can this happen? Because the Yagya Kund, um, is the mouth of Vishnu, is considered as the mouth of the Vishnu. And the fire here in the Yagya is the tongue of Vishnu. So whatever we are offering, it is directly going to Vishnu. And, and if we are doing the sacrifices in the right way, the yagyas, Vishnu is satisfied. And in turn, the demigods get pleased, right? I think we can understand this a bit more better from the next example. So can somebody tell me what you can see on this picture?
It's a wound.
Right. So it's a wound, and if we ask a common person that the person has got wound on his leg, for example, and he goes to the doctor, and the doctor prescribes medicine, and the medicine, we take it from our mouth, right? And the common man, it is beyond our capacity to understand as how we are taking it from the mouth, and how is it helping us in the place of the wound. It's similar to the setup as what we have right now, like with this COVID situation, we have this virtual setting, where we are sitting in different places, and still able to connect, right? So if you ask or talk to an IT person, it's pretty straightforward, but for a common person, it's beyond the understanding limit, right? So similarly, um, Krishna has created this world, us and demigods, and given these prescribed yagyas, by performance of which, like we studied before, it causes purification of heart, and eventually awakens the knowledge, within us, and helps us to progress within this overall Krishna consciousness. And sometimes we really, get puffed up, with our material advancements, like maybe a bigger material assets like house or promotions or something like that. But we need to, again, I'd like to stress that it's very important that we need to always remember the primary purpose of us in this material world, which we saw in the initial slides, that it's basically for us a chance to perform these yagyas to please Vishnu and to go back to Godhead. That's the main purpose of this material world. And when we talk so much about yagyas, what is the primary and main yagya for us in this age of Kali Yuga? Does anyone remember this shloka? We learned this. Would anyone like to recite this?
Okay, I'll read. तृतीयाध्यायतो विष्णु त्रेतायां यजतो मुखे द्वापरे परिचार्यायां कलौ कीर्तनात्.
So it says clearly here, whatever results was obtained in Satyug by meditating on Vishnu, and Treta Yuga, it was performing sacrifices. Dwapar Yuga was serving the Lord's lotus feet, and in Kali Yuga, it is chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So each yuga have their prescribed yagyas, and for Kali Yuga, we have this mentioned in Bhagavatam as well. But for Kali Yuga, it's the main chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is the yagya for us. So moving on to the next slide. So in same Bhagavad Gita 10.25, 10th chapter, 25th shloka, Krishna says, Yajnanam japayagnosmi. So of all the sacrifices, I am the chanting of holy names. Yeah. So Krishna is clearly saying here that, that it's very clear that chanting is the main sacrifice, for us. And similarly, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th chapter, 11th canto, 5th chapter, 3rd verse, it's clearly
32nd verse.
32nd verse, sorry. It's clearly stated that this description of appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is the golden form of Krishna himself. And the purpose for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to appear was specially to enlighten us and to propagate the holy name of Krishna, and stressing the importance of the Sankirtana movement overall, and how this chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, how this allows, and cleanses our heart, all the impurities in our heart, and helps us to gain the real knowledge, which we need to go back to Godhead. So, so like we, hear from Sumit, so this is not whimsical at all. It's something whimsical. So, it was something which was told by Brahmaji, and it has come in the disciplic succession from Brahmaji to Narada, and further down. So yeah, so I think the bottom line for 10.10 shloka, sorry, 3.10 shloka is that performing, the purpose of us being in this material world is to, to have, to go back to Godhead. And how would we do that? By performing the prescribed yagyas. And what is the prescribed yagya for Kali Yuga? Is the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. So any questions so far? Okay. So I think I would just like to highlight here again, one thing, that to really have the faith, in the name of the chanting of the holy name, because like we have been learning that chanting, hearing, reading, all these will eventually help us to slowly reduce our anxieties in our day-to-day life, and it eventually purifies us and gets us closer to Krishna. Okay, the next shloka is 3.11. Can somebody tell me, what is this? What do you see on the screen? It's a tree, right?
Tree.
Yeah, nothing complicated. So it was a very straightforward thing. So it's a tree, and it really looks huge, green, nice, right? So very pleasing. So very nourished. So how do we nourish this tree? What is the way to nourish it well?
Need to water it.
Water it.
Right.
Sunlight. Yeah.
So the first thing we heard was watering. So where would you water the tree?
Roots.
Right. So it's mentioned, the same example in Srimad Bhagavatam that, so similarly, the way, here we need to nourish the root, to have the nourished tree, we need to water the roots, right? Similarly, Krishna is the root, and if we do our yagyas to Krishna, it it kind of blossoms. So the 3.11 shloka, does anyone want to read this?
I'll read it.
Yeah.
The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all.
Right. So so um so demigods, yeah, we come this again. So the demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please us. Yeah. Um, so can who are these demigods? If for example, we took about this tree. So if it who are the demigods? So
The forms of God that that we think. Though we say Lord Krishna is supreme, or he is the supreme consciousness, but there are other gods. I think
Right.
demigods are.
Right. So it's like they are different kind of ministers who are responsible for different areas, right? To run this material world. For example, we have Lord Surya for sunlight, and then for rains we have Lord Indra. So they are like different ministers, who are in charge of various different departments, under Krishna. So they are they are basically empowered with that particular department so that they can run it, and but they are working under Krishna's will, right? So so similarly, I think if we perform the yagyas, which is to Vishnu, um, just like we water the root of this tree, um, you know, um, all the demigods would be pleased by performing that yagya to Vishnu. Similar to the watering the root of the tree, it would, all the leaves and branches, everything would be nourished well. And then in turn, if you water the tree, root of the tree well, then the tree would then come out with all the outputs like the fruits, vegetables for us, even as much as providing shade, to us, so that we can survive within this material world. So it's like, men and the demigod, we need to work together. That's what we saw in 3.10, that together, along with that, Krishna has given us the sacrifice, so that we can work together in order to progress back to Godhead. Sumit?
Yeah, thanks. So you can move on to the next slide. Okay, so someone will like to read this?
I can read. In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief.
Thank you, Ramani. So, we try to understand what Nikita ji just explained, right? Taking example of this tree, which is actually given in Srimad Bhagavatam, to understand the relationship between Krishna and the demigods, right? And how that cooperation between demigod and us by performance of yajna is to be understood, right? So now what happens is, if we are taking the fruits, the flowers, the vegetables coming out, right, from any tree or creeper, and in return we are not watering the tree, the plant, or the creeper, what will happen? Then the reciprocal relationship between the two will be stopped, right? None of them will be happy. right? Now the main thing was what? Main thing is to understand that demigods' satisfaction depends on the performance of yajna. And what is the yajna? Yajna means satisfaction of Vishnu. The way if we water the root, the leaves will get the nourishment. Similarly, if we do anything for Krishna or Vishnu, the demigods by default get satisfied. To understand better, if you water each and every leaf of the tree, what will happen? You know, the leaf may shine a bit and all, but the leaf will not get the required nourishment, right? It's like not doing the justice. It may be, yeah, something you're doing, but not doing the justice, right? We take another analogy, the government, right? Which is headed by the prime minister, various ministers, right? Or you talk about bureaucrats and we, right? So when we are paying the taxes to the government, all the ministers and bureaucrats, they get their salary. We don't have to give salary to each and every bureaucrat or minister. What you have to do, you just have to pay the tax centrally. And then everyone will be satisfied. But if you do some unethical work, what will happen? That then breaks the relationship, right? So that is the relationship between demigods and us, with involvement of Vishnu or Krishna in the center, right? So is there any question on this 3.12? Okay, I've tried to explain a little more in an example. If we go to the next slide. Okay, so what are you seeing here?
House construction.
House is under construction. Now, for example, if that house is of Dipeshji, right? Dipeshji is getting this house constructed somewhere in Kerala, right? Which place Dipeshji in Kerala?
Kannur.
Kannur.
Kannur. Okay. So Dipeshji parents are there and his wife is there, and they are helping in supervising the construction. And Dipeshji is sending money from here, right? And there they have involved the civil contractor, the plumber, the electrician, and carpenter, and everyone, masons and laborers, everyone. They are paying, and all the helpers are helping Dipeshji construct this house. Now, suppose the house is fully completed, it's done, right? And the day comes when Dipeshji has to inaugurate the house and get into the house. Now, what happens is when he tries to inaugurate and get into the house, he's already seeing that civil contractor has taken the master bedroom, the plumber has taken one of the other bedroom, the electrician say, I will take the living room, right? And then carpenter says, this terrace is mine. What will happen in that case, Dipeshji? That will be a disaster, right? So what we will have to do in that case? We'll have to go to higher authority, someone. Why? Because whose money was that? It was Dipeshji's money, right? See, the bricks, the cement, the iron, the wood, everything has been brought by whose money? By Dipeshji's money. Dipeshji has paid salary to all the workers. Then everything should belong to whom? Dipeshji. Is it clear to everyone? Prashadji, it is clear?
Yeah, clear.
Okay. So now what happens? Let's see, try to understand in the real world what is happening. So we move on to the next slide. Okay, now what do you see in this slide? The sun, the water, right? The pearls, the jewels, the fruits, the nature, and our own
Brain.
400 grams of brain, right? Now, Dipesh ji, who has given all these things to us?
Lord Krishna.
Right? Everything we find in the nature, including our own self, including our old self means this body, right? See, the parents are the via medium, right? The parents have not actually manufactured our body, right? You know, they were the via medium through which we came into being, right? The way the construction workers are involved, right? Our parents have not really worked on building us up in that sense, right? All and each and everything has been done under the supervision of whom? Of Krishna. He may have involved a number of people, but he is the main person. And if we see this verse from 5th chapter, 29th verse, last verse, right, of 5th chapter. Bhoktaram yaga tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suhriday sarva bhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. In this, Krishna says, Bhoktaram yaga tapasam, that I am the ultimate beneficiary of all the sacrifices and austerities. All the yajna and all your tapasyas are actually meant for me. Ultimately, I am the beneficiary, right? Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Now he says that I am the Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Everything belongs to me, right? Now that looks like he's very demanding, right? He's saying that, you know, I am the super boss. At the same time, he says, Suhridaya Sarva Bhutana. I am the well-wishing friend of all the living entities. I love everyone so much, right? And one who understands this lives in peace. So here, Krishna is saying that I am providing each and everything to you, right? The brain with the help of which we actually do our daily work, you know, we take care of our families, we have acquired car, the property, so-called, everything. That brain was provided by Krishna. Actually, if you see everything around you, like bricks, from where have they come? Iron, from where has it come? Gold, from where has it come? Every basic thing which we are utilizing have ultimately come from earth, right? Everything, the nature, right? And who is the owner of this? Krishna. Are we paying electricity bill here, Prashad ji, every month?
Yeah.
And how much electricity bill are you paying to sun?
0.
Why?
It's free.
It's not free. We think it is free, but Krishna says, na, there should be a reciprocal relationship between you and the demigod. Otherwise, we will be thieves, right? See, if we are taking, if it is one way, then it is that we are not doing our due, right? For example, you know, you go to a shop, you pay money to get ice cream. You have paid the money, but the shopkeeper is not giving you the ice cream. Then it's unethical, right? Similarly, sometimes we think everything is free for us. The sun, the water, the fruits, the vegetables, we may be paying to some of the vendors, you know, sometimes. But actually, while, you know, relishing those things, are we remembering the manufacturer? The vendor has not put sweet in the mango, right? The rose is so soft. It's so beautiful. The smell is so nice. From where has everything come? From earth. Have you ever imagined? There's so many different plants, and you just pour water in the earth, and then the rose comes. Like, only a person whose brain is made up of hard stone cannot realize the reciprocation of Supreme Personality at every moment of his time, seeing things around. You know, just think, our Prashad ji is sitting with a backdrop of coconut, tree around the sea, right? Now tell me, what is that sea water? How is it? It is sweet or salty?
Salty.
Salty.
And that coconut which grows there on the tree, is it sweet or salty?
Sweet.
How is that happening? Who is doing that? Now you tell me that this cell phone, right? You are working in chips and 100,000 different things, and then you come up with a cell phone, and then you have to upgrade and update that. Otherwise, no one is going to be satisfied. But who has upgraded and updated this coconut tree? Who is processing this water which is turning from salty to sweet? Who has put in the process there? Please tell me. We think that it is, it's no brain is behind it, no intelligence is behind it. There is. That is how we reciprocate with Krishna at every moment of time. Right? So, let's move on to the next slide.
Prabhu, one question here.
Yeah.
So, Prabhu, he in this mentioned that we should have reciprocal relationship with the demigods. That does mean that we are consuming sun's energy, so we should offer or pray or do puja for sun god.
Right. Very good question. Very good question. So, see, please try to understand. We were trying to explain that when you pour water in the root of a tree, right, what happens? The leaf will get nourishment, right? If you pour water on the leaf, it may look little clean, but will it get a nourishment? No, right? Now, when you pay taxes to the government, like central authority, which government has put, will all the bureaucrats and ministers get the money, that's their salary? They will get, right? So they get nourishment, right? But if you go and try to pay bribe to one of the bureaucrat and minister, then it will be unethical, right? Similarly, the process, please try to understand, the process which is recommended here in Bhagavad Gita for devotees, for transcendentalists, for spiritualists, is Krishna is saying, Yajñārt karmano anyat loko yam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Do your prescribed duties for me, for Vishnu. Otherwise, everything else will cause bondage. Now, I will request you to have little patience. There are wonderful, wonderful verses in Bhagavad Gita in 7th chapter and 9th chapter, which actually will open our eyes. That which kind of people are worshipping demigods, right? Why do they worship? And what is the position of demigods? And let me tell you, because I know that, many of us have that, inquisitiveness to understand that, what is it actually, right? So in Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna will say that people whose intelligence have been stolen, they worship demigods, right? So, and we have understood the process by these various examples which are given here. Krishna is saying, if you perform yajna, if you perform yajna, the demigods will be satisfied. There is no per se requirement, for a spiritualist, for a transcendentalist, for a devotee to independently worship any other demigod. If you are performing your prescribed yajna, which is the chanting of the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. If you are offering your food to Krishna, for example, let me give you one more example. So Nikita ji gave an example of a wound, right? That there was a wound, for example, in the arm, right? In the forearm, there is a wound. Now, if that common lay person, says that, well, the doctor is a fool. What will happen if I put the medicine in my mouth? I will crush it and put it in my hand here. Everything will be fine. Now, what do you think will be the result? Tell me. It will be zero. Please follow the process. The process is put the medicine in the mouth, and then through the bloodstream it will be distributed, and it will have its efficacy here. Let me give you one more example. Now, Prasad ji, when we are eating our prasad food, right? What is the process like? How much the bites of chapati will you give to hand, this hand, arm, ears, head, leg, foot? How many? Or where do you put? Everything goes in the mouth, in the
Mouth,
stomach,
Yeah.
and then stomach distributes it everywhere, right? You don't have to independently serve different body parts. In the Vedas, it is said that demigods are the body parts of Vishnu, of Krishna. And if you satisfy Vishnu, then all the demigods by default will be satisfied. That is the relationship. So we have now heard, I think, so sufficient examples. And what I will do after this session, we will share some verses so that you have clarity. But my request is to keep patience. Gradually we'll flow and understand that why it is said. Okay. Any other question before we move ahead? Okay. So now this verse is, Prabhupada has mentioned this in the purport, right? And this is from Chandogya Upanishad, 7.26.2. Someone will like to read this?
You can read.
Yeah, please.
Ahara suddhau sattva suddhiha sattva suddhau dhruva smriti smriti lambe sarva grantinam vipramokshaha.
Thank you very much. So, see, when we are performing sacrifice, you get a sanctified food, right? That you get a prasad. You're not eating any so-called vegetarian food. You are eating prasad. Ahar shuddho. Eating that offered food, which is prasad, what happens is sattva suddhi, dhruva smriti. Then the entire existence, your whole consciousness is impacted, and which helps you basically in what? Getting purified memory, sanctified memory, with help of which what you do? With the help of which you can remember Krishna. And remembering Krishna or following the spiritual rules and regulations with that pure mind, sanctified memory, the knots of this material world, Granthina, the knots of this material world are cut, and then you will achieve liberation. So, doing anything and everything for Krishna is yajna. And with the help, if similarly, we offer the food, the bhoga to Krishna, that is a very important process actually. And Krishna will highlight that in the subsequent words. Let us try to read that. I think so. This is the words you have memorized for today. Someone will like to recite?
I'll do. Yagnashishtashinah santo muchyante sarvakil vishay munjate te tvagam papa ye pachante tatmakaranat.
Very good. Very good.
The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin.
Right. So here, Krishna is directly saying, please don't eat anything without offering to me. Right? See, non-vegetarians, let animals be non-vegetarians. Right? Human body is actually meant for taking vegetarian food. There is a science. What is the science? The science is our intestine is very long. Our teeth are not very sharp. They are blunt. Our saliva is not very strong. Now I will compare these things with a lion, right? Now, if you compare our teeth with the teeth of a lion or a dog, you can say that their teeth are very sharp, right? In comparison to our teeth are blunt. Our saliva, which is secreted, is not very acidic, but their saliva is very acidic. Our intestine is very long, while the carnivores, they have very short intestine. Now what happens is our whole body is meant for taking vegetarian food. Our body is meant for taking vegetarian food. Our teeth are not meant for, cutting or crushing or chewing the non-vegetarian stuff. Our saliva is not that strong that it can digest. Our intestine is long. Our vegetarian food stays for long in our gradual nourishment. Now take the lion. Lion will eat, meat, needs sharp teeth, cut, chew, right? And then saliva is strong to start, the enzymes will start working on it, the digestion. And when it happens, they fast intake and then excrete. Intestine is not long. It does not stay for long. Now, if we take that non-vegetarian, it is not, first is not crushed properly the way, the salivas are not strong. And then it goes into the long intestine, it stays for long, which is why if you see these diseases and all these cancers are high in non-vegetarians, not so much in vegetarians. So first, let's talk about the vegetarian food, to basically scientific aspect. Now, Prabhupada says, you should not be proud to be a vegetarian. Monkeys are also vegetarians, right? So what are you doing by being proud of being a vegetarian? Better be a prasaditarian, right? Better a prasaditarian. Yagya sista sina santo muchyante sarva kilbisha bhujyate te to agham papa ye pachyante atma karanat. Ye pachyante atma karanat. Those who prepare food for sense gratification, they are not going to, they are eating just sin. And those Yagya Sista Sina Santo, the Sant, the devotees, will only eat food which is offered to Krishna. Muchyante sarva kilbisha. And then it will help to free them from all the kilbisha, all the problems, all the pap, all the sin. Not only of this birth, from past many births. Right? An important part of a devotee life is to only eat prasad. We should not eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. That is very important thing. Okay, so move on to the next slide. Right. So someone will read this.
Who prepare food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves but also the eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy if he is both a thief and sinful? It's not possible.
Right. So these people whom you are seeing here, so-called enjoying the food, right? Sometimes thief, they also enjoy. Oh, today I have got a lot of stuff, right? Similarly, people around us, they may, look very happy eating all the garbage, whether it is vegetarian or whether it is non-vegetarian. If you are not offering anything to Krishna, then it is a path. And then we are leading a sinful life. That has to be understood from Bhagavad Gita. Right? That is why we request all of you to not only become vegetarian, but also start offering whatever you are preparing at your home to Krishna. Right? So that is a very important practice in a life of a devotee. Right? See, sometimes people say, I just wanted to understand Bhagavad Gita. That is, but please try to understand that it will be just a theoretical thing if you want to understand the philosophy, and you will forget it after some time, right? If you say that I want to work in a company, but I don't want salary, right? Then you will lose interest, right? If you are not seeing any reciprocal thing. So if you are, if you are trying to understand Bhagavad Gita, it will be really very helpful if you start gradually following these things. Try to implement these learnings in your life. That will be very helpful. Okay. And sadhana chart, what we have given you, the mind control chart, actually it has everything what Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita. Right? So we move on to the next slide. I just bring up the entire cycle of sacrifice. Yeah. So in the subsequent 14th and 15th verse, Krishna talks about this cycle of sacrifice, right? That all living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rain. Rains are produced by performance of sacrifice, yajna. And yajna is born of prescribed duties. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas have directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So, let me explain it to you. See, Vedas, from where have the Vedas come? Vedas, as Nikita ji just explained, it is a user manual, right? How to use the human life and earth, right? How to make use of it, right, Prashad ji? Right? How to make use of it. Yeah, their user manual. So if you buy a washing machine, you get a user manual. Nowadays, you know, people directly go to YouTube to see how to use a thing. Even if you buy medicine, there is instruction of use. What are the side effects, you know, how you should take, and all those things are written there. That is instruction of use. Similarly, when Krishna prepared us, he gave us Vedas. In Vedas, what was written? How you should perform your prescribed duties, which are supposed to be sacrifices, yajna. Prescribed duty for Krishna is yajna. For Vishnu is yajna. Yagne vai Vishnu, right? If you perform those prescribed duties, the sacrifices, what will happen? If you are watering the root of the tree, you are getting fruits, vegetables, flowers. Similarly, if you are performing sacrifices, you will get rains, right? And the rains will help to generate food grains. And what you will do with food grains? You will prepare bhoga. Bhoga offered to Krishna. So that cycle should be complete. If you don't complete the cycle, it will be broken, right? That is important thing. Complete the cycle. If you don't offer everything back, like Prashad ji just told, that we are not paying tax to electricity bill to sun god, right? We are not remembering Krishna when drinking the coconut water and not offering the coconut water to Krishna, right? So that reciprocal relationship breaks. See, please try to understand. When we are paying the cost of the coconut, actually we are not paying to Krishna. We are paying just for these people, you know, who are contractors, vendors, shopkeepers and all. Only we pay back to Krishna when we offer it to Krishna. Offer our brain, offer whatever you are eating. Everything should be offered to Krishna, right? In the way we prepare so much bhoga, offer a plate to Krishna, then that distribute everywhere, eat. Everything becomes prasad. Similarly, we have to live this life. Okay, so we move on to the next slide. Prashadji, you will read this.
Yeah. When there is an epidemic disease, an antiseptic vaccine protects a person from the attack of such an epidemic. Similarly, food offered to Lord Vishnu and then taken by us makes us sufficiently resistant to material affection. And one who is accustomed to this practice is called a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness who eats only food offered to Krishna can counteract all reactions of past material infections, which are impediments to the progress of self-realization. On the other hand, one who does not do so continues to increase the volume of sinful action, and this prepares the next body to resemble hawks and dogs to suffer the resultant reactions of all sins. Okay, Sumit, you are muted, I think.
Okay, sorry. So why do you take vaccines?
Protection.
To help us protect from any infection, right? In case of corona pandemic, we are all requesting people to take vaccine, right? Because it is going to help us. What is the purpose of offering food to Krishna and taking that prasad? Prabhupada very clearly explains. Nice analogy, right? That food which is offered to Krishna acts as a vaccine. Not only does it act as a vaccine, Prabhupada further explained, it will counter all your past sins, present sin, future problems also. Isn't it interesting? Harshita, what do you think about this?
Yeah, we do offer prasad daily here. So
Yes.
yeah,
So we should practice
I
this.
can, yeah,
That is very important thing, right?
yeah.
So we will move on to the next slide. Very interesting. What is this lady eating? Huh? What is she eating? Don't know. Okay, we will read the words first and then see. Who will read the Sanskrit words?
I'll read. Evam pravartitam chakram nanuvartayatihayah agyahur indriyaramo mogham partasa jivati. My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice, thus established by Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of senses, such a person lives in vain.
Yeah. See, Krishna is saying that one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice, that if we will not offer everything back to Krishna, if we don't pay the electricity bill to sun god by being thankful to Krishna, right? If we are eating food which is not offered to Krishna, if we are trying to enjoy independent of Krishna, then we are all living a very sinful life. Indriya aramo mogham partha jivita. Then we are living a mogham means uselessly sinful life. Indriya aram means life of sense gratification. Right? So we all should follow this. This is a humble request, right? So we'll move on to the next slide. Nikita ji, will you talk on this?
So I think overall, what we learned now, what falls within our quota, practically. So for, let's touch on different aspects, like the first one being food. So vegetarian food, like we mentioned, Prabhupada says that monkeys are also vegetarians. So we as devotees should have rather a prashaditarian, so vegetarian food which is offered to God. Then property, not to
This
encroach.
is, Nikita, this what we are discussing is the basic quota given to us, right? To us as human beings and devotees, how should we lead our life, and we have put down various things, our Radhesham Prabhu has put down these things. So this is helpful. Sometimes we get confused, how to understand it in practical terms, right? So which is what Nikita is sharing. Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry.
When it comes to property, not to encroach into others' property, knowing that everything belongs to Krishna. Wealth, again, offering part of our earnings to Krishna. It says TDX, which is the tax deduction of transcendental devotional service. That's how we put it. But offering part of our money to Krishna so that the rest of our earning becomes as a prasad. Work, not to perform any religious activities, following those 4 regulative principles, which are no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and no illicit sex. And what should be our endeavor? Not to be greedy. It's very easy, we know, that to get attracted to the material environment. So not to be greedy, and but in being in Krishna conscious approach. Spouse, so having the family, so married as per the religious principles and not having any illicit relationships. Sumit, do you want to add something here?
No, I think so. These are self-explanatory, right? So any questions on this? Any question on this? Okay, if not, we can go ahead.
So just further on with the quota, residence. So our environment within the home, it should be God, Krishna should be in the center. We should have a clear demarcation for ourselves, what is must-have necessities and what is luxury, and not to be very greedy and influenced with the, social pressure. Position, we should always remember that we are servants of Krishna, and not to be behind getting more power or getting influenced with such things. Sleeping, restricting it to 6 hours and maximum 7 hours, and try to rise up early and follow our sadhana chart. So domination, no animal slaughter, recreation, do things which are favorable for our spiritual life. Like if you want to watch something, watch about Krishna, read something, read about about Krishna, and avoid any unholy movies and to get influenced with those. Sports, the purpose should not be attracting people. It should be more of keeping ourselves healthy so that we can in turn serve Krishna, and continue our spiritual life healthy. Okay, so Sumit, anything to add here?
Yeah, we can move on to the next slide. Right. So art of performing the holy work. So we have gone through this verse in second chapter, karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadashan ma karma phal heturur mate sangasta karmani. That You have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruit of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the result of your activities, and never be attached to not doing, right? So we can never and we should never consider ourselves to the cause of the result of work. Now, if we are not the cause of the result of the work, right, then who are we? You know, like, for example, there is a project, right? In project, there are different project members are working. We are one of the contributors. Similarly, when we are doing our work, there are many agents working along, right? And we are just one of them. And we will study more in detail about it in the subsequent chapters, right? That how we are one of the co-workers, and which is why it is said, don't consider yourself to be the cause of the result, only yourself, right? And then don't be attached to not working. If we think, you know, we are not the cause, then I will sleep. Krishna knows our mentality. Krishna says, don't become lazy. Act, right? So, okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So sometimes, you know, people think, no, I'm the controller. I am the cause of everything. So here you see, you know, we are this actually. Our position is same as the position of this baby in the womb. So we should realize, as we become Krishna conscious, as we go deep into spirituality, we will realize that our position is similar to this baby who is in the womb, right? So I'm not independent. Krishna is the controller. We will move on. Then what is the goal of our life, right? If we all are living here, doing so many activities, we have talked about our quota and everything, right? What is the goal of our life? So here it is written, good news and bad news from a pilot. Ishwar, what is the good news from the pilot?
It could be we are reaching on time, where we are safe, and
Right.
everything is good. Yeah.
And what will be the bad news?
Bad news could be the weather is not good. The flight has a turbulence, and it could be anything which causes problem to the passengers.
Now, if you fly from Singapore, right? You onboard a plane, you fly from Singapore, and the pilot say, I don't know where am I going. What will happen? Everyone will stand up. What is this?
Absolutely.
Am I correct? Ishwar?
Yeah. A lot of anxiety and
Lot of anxiety. Like, yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I've sit in the plane for a purpose. When I fly from Singapore, I have to reach Bangalore, right? I didn't like, when I do something, there is a reason, right? So why are we working so hard for accumulating things which will never go along with us? In a sense, that what is the goal? The goal of flying is that we want to reach to a destination, right? Now, what is the goal of us accumulating so many things when we know we are not this body? If we are soul, then Harshita ji, how much daily time we are spending on our body, and what percentage of your time you are spending for soul? So let's ask everyone this question. I will ask this question to everyone. In the 24 hour, what percent of time you are spending for your body, and what percent of your time you are spending for soul? So starting from Harshita ji. Okay.
For our body, in the sense, all
for
24 hours.
eating, sleeping,
For all
taking
24
care of the
hours.
body, and
Yes.
no time for soul. You are chanting,
So, yeah.
so you are
Okay.
reading, you are hearing Krishna Katha. So what percentage of your daily time you are spending in spiritual activity versus bodily activity?
Spiritual is like 2.5 hours.
2.5
Uh,
hour. Matlab ki it is less than what? 10%.
Yeah, for chanting, it takes
Okay,
around 2
10%.
hours. Around 2 hours.
Right.
And like doing seva and all, another say 1 hour, like hearing something,
Yeah.
reading the scriptures. So might be 3 hours.
3 hours. So 3 is how much? Mathematicians are there, our engineers. 3 out of 3 by 24 is how much time? Maybe 15%.
15%. Yeah.
Okay. So Harshita is spending 15% of her time. Someone can write all these things. Then we will ask. Okay. Prashad ji, how much time are you spending? What percentage of your time for body and what percent for soul?
Yeah, it'll be 15 to 20 minutes only for me.
15 to
soul.
20 minutes.
Minutes, yeah.
Okay. So it is like
Just
how
praying
much?
time, yeah.
Maybe
Much less,
2% or what?
Yeah, less than that. Maybe.
Okay. So Ishwar, how much time are you spending?
I would be spending around 1.5 hours to 2 hours. 1.5 hours, I would say, more precisely, for prayer and soul, and the remaining is all rest of
Maybe
the.
somewhere 7% or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ramaya ji, how much?
Actually, mine is bit change. Sometimes 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours, because some days I don't do yoga. Yoga also will be considered as a soul meditation and pranayama and all. So sometimes 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours.
Yoga, if you are doing in connection with Krishna, if yoga you are doing for keeping healthy, then it is all on physical level. Right?
Yes.
Okay, so we considered 3 hours of Ramaya ji, right? Someone can calculate the percentage. Santosh Prabhu, what percentage of your time?
So 2 hours.
2 hours per Santosh Prabhu. Okay. And Dipesh ji?
I'll be half an hour, Rajamohan ji.
Half an hour, right? So maybe how much? 5%, 2%, something, right? So now from tomorrow, you go on your work and we will give 10% of your salary to you, 90% we give to Sumit Goyal. Is that fine? Please try to understand. We are not this body. 90%, 80%, 70% of our time we are spending for body. Please try to understand, which is why we have projected this slide. Goal of life. Why are we working so hard for accumulating things which will not go along with the soul? Right? We have to all think aloud about it. Now, Nikita ji, if you can please move at one. Now, for example, if there is a football match going on.
But one question.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what about the prescribed duties? Like Krishna says that we should perform our prescribed duties. So all day we do our prescribed duties, whatever it is. So in what section does it go?
Right. So we will answer this question. Very good question. Dipesh ji also asked this question last time. So we'll answer this again. Okay. But next time, if someone asks this question, you will have to answer it for me. Okay. I will explain it. Okay. So now let's see a football match. Now, football match, if that is without a goal post, isn't that a foolish proposition? How can you play a football match without goal post? We are playing the football match without goal post. Just kicking football from here and there. Goal is going to back home, back to Godhead. Krishna said in 3.10, I created this universe for you to perform yajna. And Baba, you are wasting your time in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Right? So, why then man is living life without goals? right? So there has to be difference between a mature adult and a child. Goal of life is to return our home back to Godhead, right? That is very important for us to understand. So, okay, move on to the next slide, which is the last slide for today. Yeah, you can scroll. So when we talk about Nishkam Karma Yoga, what is it basically? What work you do? I do, God works. What do you do with the fruits? I offer it to God. And what do you do? How do you do? I do it with sincerity, dedication, commitment, right? And what is your identity in that whole work? That I am Jivere Sarup Hoy Nitya Krishna Das. I am servant of Krishna. And what do you expect from that work? Satisfaction of Krishna and purification of heart, right? So that is basically everything we do it for Krishna satisfaction with sincerity, dedication, in a consciousness that we are servant of Krishna. And by doing in this consciousness, we will get purity, right? Okay, so Nikita ji, you can stop sharing the slides now. Okay. So now Harshita ji asked a question which earlier was also asked by Dipesh ji. That now today we basically rang an alarm bell by asking what % of time you are spending for yourself and deducting your salary and transferring it in Sumit Goel's bank account from tomorrow. Like everyone is wondering what is happening, because actually that is what all of us are doing. You know, we are working for someone else. We are actually working for someone else. We are not working for ourselves. Now, so Harshita ji, what are the prescribed activities? Harshita?
Yeah.
What are your prescribed duties? You are saying na what will happen to prescribed duty? So what are your prescribed duty? Tell me.
Taking care of the doing day-to-day activities, taking care of my child, and serving. Like I live with my parents-in-law, so it's like from normal routine what all we do.
Right. Okay. Dipesh ji, you asked almost a similar question, right? And I explained from morning to night everything, right? So Dipesh ji, you will explain her now.
So the prescribed duties, as far as I can understand, is something which is done in devotion to the Lord Krishna. Whatever you do, if you do it for Lord Krishna, that can be defined as a prescribed duty.
Right. So for example, now Harshita asked a very valid question, and now all of you will be alarmed when we talk like, 10-20% of things we are doing only for ourselves. Rest of the things we don't know actually, because we are not this body, right? So we are actually wasting. It is as good as transferring the money to anyone's bank account. You work so hard and transfer 80%, 90% or 95% of the money to someone else whom you don't even know who that person is. Now, how should we work then? How should we do our day-to-day responsibility? Harshita and all of you, you please remember this. And I tell you, if you try to implement this, you'll feel so much of satisfaction, contentment, right? And then next time, after 6 months from now, everyone will be above 50%. So at least you will have a passing grade. 10-20%, no one will consider, like, at least 33-40%, whatever now. When we were taking exams, it was 33. I don't know how much it is now. Everyone scores 80-90% nowadays. I don't know how come. So let's at least try to aim at 50%. Okay. So how should we do that? Now, Krishna said in 3.10 that I created the universe for you to perform yajna, and by performance of yajna, you will be happy in this world and you will attain liberation. Both the see, this is the problem, right? Why we are doing? We are doing to be happy. Whatever we do in this world is basically to be happy. And Krishna has solved this problem for us. On earth, you will be happy and then you will get liberation. How? By performing yajna. Now, to understand in practical sense, what is this yajna and how can I do my prescribed duties and what are they? So if we live in this consciousness, with this mentality, that we are devotees of Krishna, we are servants of Krishna, okay? We have been sent by Krishna for a purpose and we have to do that for Krishna. Like, for example, Dipesh ji, which company are you working in?
Polycom.
Polycom, yeah, that telephone communication. So Polycom, Dipesh ji, when he goes to the office, that 8 hours he works for the company, right? Full 8 hours, right? Now Krishna is not just for 8 hours, it is for our lifetime. We have to work for Krishna, right? Morning, we get up, we clean this body. Morning, first thing we do, clean this body. Why should we clean this body? Because Krishna wants us to be clean. A devotee should look good, remain nice, clean clothes, okay? Take bath, be healthy, okay? Krishna wants. That is why now from tomorrow, so this half an hour, 1 hour, whatever time you take to clean yourself is also a Krishna conscious activity. It all depends on our mindset, in our consciousness, why I am doing this thing, right? So one thing I am taking bath from tomorrow, because Krishna becomes happy if I remain clean, right? I remain healthy. Krishna wants us. Thereafter, what we do is do some meditation, like chanting, right? Krishna has requested us that we chant 16 rounds, right? Through our spiritual master, he has given that instruction. So we chant 2 hours, 3 hours, we do our chanting. Before chanting, we open our temple, right? We wake up the deities, and we do a little small arti, right? So it takes maybe 20-25 minutes, and then we do our chanting, 2 hours. And after chanting, we do Tulsi Puja, and then deity worship, that main arti, right? So it all takes like around about 3 to 4 hours. So maybe from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. 8 a.m. we sit for honoring prasad, right? We take prasad. What is prasad? Is food offered to Krishna, right? So till 8:30, all the activities, for Krishna, right? And it can be done by all of you, right? From 4 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. or 9, depending on your time, right? From 5 to 9 or even 5:36, whatever. Like morning, 4 hours, right? Now, in the meantime, what I also do, I also try to find time when I'm waking up deities, when I'm doing certain other activities, I try to hear. I put on the lecture and I hear about. So I hear about 30 minutes. Doing other activities, I hear Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, something, right? So this 4-5 hours, they charge me. Like you use a mobile phone, you have to charge it sufficiently so that it can function for the rest of the day. So in morning, I charge myself 4-5 hours with Krishna conscious activities. When now I open my laptop, right, for doing my work, I do my work with the aim of what? That we will get some salary, right? So we have to do our work. Now work has to be ethical, right? It cannot be something illegal. It has to be ethical, nicely done with full sincerity, devotion, dedication. Now, how we will do our work for Krishna? Work for Krishna is that same philosophy, that we depend on Krishna for everything, anything, in a sense that whatever salary we get, how we will utilize that salary. Salary is a portion of that salary. Like we prepare a bhoga in our kitchen, and a portion of bhoga we give as to Krishna, right? And then it becomes prasad. So all the things, all the bhoga we are preparing in kitchen becomes the prasad for that meal. Similarly, when a portion of our salary we give to Krishna, the entire salary becomes the prasad. And that salary is again utilized for Krishna conscious activities. Now, how? You are spending the salary for yourself, who is living a life of Krishna devotee. You are spending it on your family, not spending like on malls or like going on a Mars, and that person is spending money, wasting his money, right? Not try. All the money used judiciously, for family who is a devotee, give it to some other services of temple and other things, right? Or save your money for your future. Like, you should not work like cats and dogs forever, from the day first breathe to the last breath. Retire and then live a life for full 100% Krishna conscious. So you should take for financial independence, so that money. So now when you work in that mentality, if you read Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, hear about Krishna, when you work, like for example, Harshita is taking care of her kid, or some of you are cleaning your house. Your house is a temple. Try to understand, all of our here are grahast. And what is grahast known as? Grahast ashram. Right? Do you agree? It is grahast ashram, right? It is not grahast restaurant or a hotel. It is a grahast ashram. Ashram is what? Ashram is where there is cultivation of spirituality. So our house becomes like a temple also. Your cleaning of house, taking care of your kid, right? When you are bringing the kid up, bhajans are going on, kirtan are going on, you are taking care of your kid, right? We homeschool our kids, and through reciting Ramayana, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita and all, right? So, and don't be in anxiety that my son should be in IIT only, and that to IIT Bombay, that to computer science, then only I will achieve the aim of my life. Everything less than that is waste of thing. That don't live in that anxiety. Whatever Krishna gives, try to be happy. That is important thing. So if we work with that mentality, throughout the day, it will be 100% Krishna conscious, living for soul, not for this body. If you remind yourself by reading Bhagavad Gita, by hearing Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, you will be reminded time and again that you are not this body, you are soul. Our 100% of our time will be Krishna conscious. Please try to understand, at this point of time, we are all wasting our time. It is as good as transferring your salary as soon as it comes, or before even it comes. You have told to your company, transfer money to Sumit Goyal's account. I just give me 2%, 5%, that will be enough. But I'm working 100%. It is as good as that. Just try to think over it. My humble request to all of you to please try to take it seriously. It is very important thing. It is like, I tell you an example. If you are flying from Singapore to Bangalore, and there is you are sitting on one of the seats, and there is your neighbor sitting, right? Now you are flying from Singapore to Bangalore to go to your house. But then after you met this neighbor, you thought, now I will live my life for this neighbor, is everything for me. You have forgotten your Singapore family, you have forgotten your Bangalore family, you have forgotten your work. Now your new neighbor has become everything. This life is like that, my dear friends. Your kids, your wife, your husband, your mother, father, everything is like that aeroplane neighbor. Before Krishna was there, and after Krishna will be there. Please try to understand that. And we have to help each other. We are in a transit in this body, on this earth, actually, in so many different bodies. It is transit. Okay. So I think so we are already discussing for almost more than 1 hour, 45 minutes. One must. Now we have cancelled Shloka and